We say that Joseph is a dreamer. And in many ways, dreams are windows to our otherwise inaccessible mind. And many say that dreams are the windows to the soul. Even the great writer Khalil Gibran says, "Trust in dreams, for in them is hidden the gate of eternity." Joseph is not just a dreamer, but he is also a protector of the Holy Family and protector of the church. I remember in January 16, 2015, when Pope Francis came to Cebu City for the Eucharistic Congress, Pope Francis confided, "I have a great love for Saint Joseph because he is a man of silence and also of strength." And he says, "You know, in my table, I have an image of the sleeping Saint Joseph. Even when he is asleep, he is taking care of the church." And Pope Francis advises that if people have some doubts or problem, leave a note under the image of the sleeping Saint Joseph. Maybe our problems might be difficult, but remember, God is bigger than anything in this world. So, confide and trust in Saint Joseph. I remember the founder, Father James Alberione, before he would buy a land, he would put a image of Saint Joseph into the land and ask the Lord, "Lord, let this land be dedicated for the service of the church." And truly, as we say, the Lord will grant the request. I remember that because of this sleeping Saint Joseph, marami ang namimili ng little image of the sleeping Saint Joseph with a little drawer inside at the side, at marami silang binibigyan na regalo sa mga friends and say, kung may problema ka, dumulong ka kay Saint Joseph. And many times, the problems are solved because there is a great intercessor for us. Saint Joseph may be silent, but he is listening and attentive. Attentive to what? Attentive to the will of God, such that his life is doing the will of God and not his own will. Yes, God's will was revealed to Saint Joseph in a dream. And many times, Joseph had to change his plan, give up his own dream, and abide by the plan of God. While at rest, God has revealed to Joseph his will. In this moment of rest in the Lord, as we pause from our many daily obligations and activities, God is also speaking to us. Like Saint Joseph, once we have heard God's voice, we must rise from our slumber, get up, and act. Joseph set aside his own ideas in order to accept the course of events, and mysterious as they may seem, he embraced them, take responsibility for them, and make them part of his own story. In the apostolic letter of Pope Francis, with the heart of a father, Patris Corde, he also says Joseph was an obedient father. Just like Mary, Joseph declared his own fiat, let it be done. And Joseph's response was immediate. When Joseph awoke from his sleep, as the angel had commanded him, he obeyed everything and accepted Mary into his life. In many ways, also, our dear Father St. Paul is a classic example of someone who abandons his personal dream and becomes a champion outside of the Mosaic law to favor the divine dream to be an apostle for the Gentiles. Jesus is not just for the Jews, but for the whole world. That's why, for Paul, he preached and presented Jesus Christ as the real gospel, the good news. He is the Son of God who has power of the resurrection from the dead. And St. Paul wishes that all people would belong to this one Jesus who is incarnated and become one of us. Yes, as in the Bible, divine dreams play a major role. We have many dreams. We have our own desires and our hopes for our future. And sometimes we realize that nothing is really permanent. Situations and the ground keeps changing under our feet. This reminds me of the time when I was ordained 38 years ago. My first assignment was vocation director. I was going around the different cities. Oftentimes, my posting place is the Daughters of St. Paul's Convent. May maraming mga teachers and school principals that are going there. So I caught a lot of fish or a lot of vocations with the Daughters of St. Paul. And they would bring to me also young men of good standing and ready to serve. Thank you, daughters, for your collaboration. Hindi ko talaga makakalimutan. Many of you here have been part of that. And as the course of the years, we realize that our dreams changes without our knowing it. Challenging as it may be. From vocation director, dinala ako sa seminary, magturo ng philosophy. After that, sinabihan ako ng superior, okay, you take charge of the juniors. At another year, you take charge of the novices. Afterwards, you say, you take charge not just of the novices, but also of the bookstore. Then afterwards, you would say, oh, ito na naman, jump a little bit higher. You take in charge of the whole apostolate of the Society of St. Paul, with all the problems of shifting from the printing press to the publications and to the many sorts of apostolates. And afterwards, you take charge of the whole congregation. Wow, ang hirap. After that, akala ko tapos na. Oh, pumunta ka muna uli sa seminary. You take charge of the seminarians as rector. And akala ko tapos na rin. Hindi meron pa pala in the middle of my teaching. Sasabihin na ako, you go for a mission in Australia. God changes our stories. But looking back as we say, wow, God has given us also the strength to do the things we have to do. But we are thankful for the many people who are walking with us in our lives. It is not just our story, but a whole story of synodality, as we say, walking with the church, because you are not alone. Wherever you go, there will always be people who are always desirous to do the will of the Lord. Yes, this world in which we live in is not our true home. So our dreams point us to the divine. Our life is attached to Jesus, the Emmanuel, the God within us. Therefore, our hopes and our aspirations reside in this Son of God, Jesus Christ, who is born for us this Christmas. Saint Joseph was called by God to serve the person and mission of Jesus directly through the exercise of his own fatherhood. He cooperated in the fullness of time in the great mystery of salvation, and truly a minister of salvation. Many times we have to ask ourselves, for whom do you offer your dreams? In between, we ask ourselves, what are you looking for? And for whom do we share our dreams? Joseph was willing to let go of his plans in favor of Mary and the child Jesus. Both Joseph and Mary surrendered their own plans and cooperated with the plan of God. From the birth of Jesus, to the flight in Egypt, to the return to Israel, to the presentation in the temple, and then raising of Jesus at Nazareth. Through all these events, Saint Joseph is indeed a model father for the Christian family. He overcame difficulties of life because he is always attuned with God. Therefore, fathers and mothers, remember, you are also cooperative in doing the will of God for your child. The child is only given to you, but you have to discover together with your child what is God's purpose for this child. Remember, not your own dream, but God's dream must be exuded out from this child. And lastly, and his homily during his inauguration of his pontificate, at the start of Pope Francis' pontificate, which was the feast of Saint Joseph, March 19, 2013. Pope Francis presented to us Joseph as protector of Mary, Jesus, and the Church. He urges us to protect. Protect what? Protect all creation by respecting each other, each of God's creatures, respecting environment, respecting the whole world, which is our only home. Not just the world, but to protect all peoples, especially the children and the elderly. It means caring for one another in our families, so that husbands and wives must be the first protector of one another. Husband, protect your wife. Wife, protect your husband. And then also parents, care for the children. And the children themselves also in time must protect their parents, even in their old age. So it means building a sincere friendship in which everybody protects everybody, respects the goodness in each and every one. In the end, everything has been entrusted to our protection, and all of us are responsible protectors of God's gift and protectors of God's people. My dear brothers and sisters, Saint Joseph has given us that model, that person doing the will of God, fulfilling the will of God, not his own, but God's will. God bless us.